There is a trifecta of movies that came out in the 1980s that really inspired me when I was growing up as a Generation X kid: Flashdance, Purple Rain, and La Bamba. These movies are about young people of color pursuing dreams in the arts. And I name these movies in that order not necessarily because of the impact that each one had on me, but because that is the order in which they were released. Flashdance, which hit the big screen in the spring of 1983, has the distinction out of these three movies of being the only one that centers on a woman, a female character. We can be inspired by stories regardless of gender, especially those of us who are storytellers ourselves. As a man, I'm proud to say I was inspired by Flashdance. The story centers on an aspiring young ballet dancer played by Jennifer Beals, whose character, Alex Owens, works in a Pittsburgh steel mill by day and as a dancer by night at a high-class strip club. Alex works these jobs so that if she realizes her dream of being accepted by the Pittsburgh Ballet Repertory, she has saved enough money to support herself. By chance, Alex falls in love with the owner of the steel mill, Nick Hurley, played by Michael Nouri, who not only becomes Alex's unlikely romantic partner, but also a passionate supporter of her dreams. At one point, when Alex is on the fence about whether or not to go to the audition that she's managed to land at the Pittsburgh Ballet Repertory, Nick tells her, "Don't you get it? You give up your dream, you die." Those are words of wisdom that all of us, especially us creatives, should take into account. Flashdance became a cultural phenomenon, and its soundtrack topped the charts with hits like the theme song, "What a Feeling" by the late Irene Cara and "Maniac" by Michael Sembello. These iconic songs became just as much of a cultural touchstone as the movie itself. This was the early days of MTV, and the music videos for these hits basically consisted of a series of clips from the movie edited together to the beat. 2023 marks the 40th anniversary of the release of Flashdance. I was only 10 years old when Flashdance came out in April 1983, and I never got to see it in a theater, although I did watch it countless times on cable television. By chance, one day in April of this year, I was browsing the internet and discovered that Flashdance has been re-released by the movie studio Paramount, and I finally got to see it in a theater. And I got to see the movie with my mom, Shelley. Mom used to be a go-go dancer herself in the 70s before I was born, and she told me that Flashdance reminds her of when she used to dance. She says one thing that she really likes about the movie is that it shows how dancers are supportive of each other. In Flashdance, the women at Mauby's Go-Go Bar aren't catty and backbiting and competitive. The movie shows the dancers, for the most part, being supportive of each other and encouraging each other to do well and cheering each other on. My mom said it was like that when she was a go-go dancer. It was such a special experience getting to see Flashdance in the theater with my mom on the eve of Mother's Day, 40 years after the movie struck a positive chord with both of us. Here are a few lessons that all of us, especially those of us who are filmmakers, dancers, musicians, writers, and other creatives, can learn from this wonderful, inspirational movie. Number 1, the importance of being earnest. In Flashdance, Alex isn't looking for a sugar daddy or someone to give her a big break. She works not one but 2 jobs and wants to succeed on her own merits. When Nick Hurley, who owns the steel mill, asks Alex out, she's adamant that she doesn't believe in dating the boss. But with his persistence and charm, Alex begins to see that Nick is sincere and is someone who will treat her well and support her dreams. Now, the age difference and power dynamic between Alex and Nick, when viewed through a 21st century lens, is a topic for another video. But something positive that can be gleaned from the way their romance is portrayed is that they are 2 characters whose fates are intertwined. And characters whose fates are intertwined is a key element of a good romance. Like Alex, Nick demonstrates that he's a person of integrity. Rather than seeing Alex as a pretty young thing that he can turn into a stay-at-home trophy wife, Nick encourages her to pursue her dreams of becoming an accomplished ballerina. And Nick does this at his own peril, knowing that if Alex does succeed as a dancer, he'll lose a good, reliable worker at the steel mill. But he selflessly supports her nonetheless. The Nick Hurley character is actually pretty progressive in a lot of ways, and certainly more progressive than many of the male characters portrayed on the big screen in the early 80s. Number 2, artists with a day job can succeed. Alex works a full-time job and a side hustle, as we would say in the 21st century, so that she can save enough money to live off of if and when her real dream of getting accepted into the elite ballet academy comes true. Alex Owens is a beacon of hope for us artists with a day job. Number 3, one-of-a-kind stories can capture the public's attention if done right. The Nick Hurley character encapsulates the premise of Flashdance when he asks, "What's a dancer doing working as a welder?" A dancer working as a welder? That doesn't even make sense. Flashdance has one of the most unique, offbeat premises in cinema history. The movie's global success and enduring cultural impact shows that stories with a unique angle that have never been done before can captivate audiences if executed properly. Number 4, constructive criticism really can improve a story. Movie studio executives have garnered a bad reputation for meddling with the creative process and giving notes to filmmakers that tend to make movies formulaic and commercial, but less original and interesting. However, according to the behind-the-scenes content of Flashdance, Michael Eisner, who went on to fame as the head of Disney in the 90s, but was head of Paramount in the 80s, gave director Adrian Lyne a crucial note. When Eisner saw an early cut of Flashdance, he suggested that the climactic dance audition scene at the end should be more exciting. Eisner's note prompted Adrian Lyne to reshoot certain aspects of the audition scene, hiring a gymnast to execute a gravity-defying leap and a breakdancer to perform Alex's stunning spin on her back. And of course, most of Alex's head-spinning moves were performed by Jennifer Beals' dance double, Maureen Jahan. There is a delicate balance between movies being made by committee, which can sap originality, and constructive criticism, which really can make a good movie great. Number 5, movie magic can happen. If you were alive in 1983 and were of betting age, the sure money would have been on the other big dance movie that was released that year, Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. That movie had 2 established male stars behind it, John Travolta reprising his leading role as Tony Manera, and Sylvester Stallone in the director's chair. Though Staying Alive made decent money at the box office, it's widely considered to be a commercial and critical failure. Who would have thought that the 1980s dance movie that would not only become a bona fide box office success, but would go on to define the decade, was the one starring an unknown woman of color? Flashdance defied conventional wisdom in Hollywood that movies centered on female characters and people of color, especially ones without a huge star, can't make money. Like the scrappy Alex Owens, Flashdance was an underdog that succeeded against the odds. If you like this video, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to my channel.